You think you know the French Revolution? Guillotine drops, heads roll, crowds cheer. But one execution stands apart from the rest. November 6th, 1793, a man who voted to kill his own cousin now faces the same blade. Philippe Égalité, born Louis Philippe Joseph, Duke of Orléans, cousin to Louis XVI, the prince who joined the revolution, the royal who condemned royalty, the man who thought he could surf the terror and survive. If you value documented revolutionary history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Simon Schama's Citizens and the Archives Nationales. Now back to the story. Philippe Égalité wasn't just any aristocrat facing the scaffold. Born 1747 into the House of Orléans, he controlled the largest private fortune in France. Palais Royal became his revolutionary playground. Coffee houses, gambling dens, radical newspapers. By 1789, his properties generated over 800,000 livres annually, enough to fund revolution. The Palais Royal wasn't just a palace, it was the revolution's headquarters. Philippe opened his gardens to the public in 1781. 12,000 visitors daily by 1789, prostitutes, pamphleteers, politicians mixing in the same courtyards. The police couldn't enter without Philippe's permission. Revolutionary immunity in the heart of Paris. Camille Desmoulins stood on a table in Philippe's garden, July 12, 1789, called the people to arms. 2 days later, they stormed the Bastille. Philippe paid for the printing presses that spread the news, revolutionary propaganda funded by royal gold. He joined the Third Estate, voted with the Commons, changed his name from Duke of Orléans to Philippe Égalité, Philippe Equality. The crowds loved him. Here was a prince betraying his class. When they brought Louis XVI to trial, Philippe cast his vote. Guilty. Death. His own cousin's head. The vote happened January 15th, 1793. 749 deputies in the convention. Philippe voted with the majority. 361 votes for death, 360 against. Philippe's single vote helped tip the balance. Royal blood condemning royal blood. But Philippe's transformation wasn't sudden. It started with debt. The Orleans family owed 24 million livres by 1785. Philippe needed cash, royal borrowing from revolutionary bankers. The old aristocratic world was dying. Philippe chose the winning side, or so he thought. The Girondins fell. The Jacobins rose. Robespierre's committee didn't trust anyone with royal blood, not even Philippe, especially not Philippe. They remembered his wealth, his connections, his son fighting with the Austrian enemy. Young Louis Philippe had defected to the coalition forces in April 1793. That made his father suspect. Philippe tried to distance himself from his son, published a letter in the Moniteur newspaper, September 23rd. I condemn my son's treason. I disown his actions. My loyalty belongs to the Republic. Too little. Too late. Robespierre wasn't buying it. The Committee of Public Safety met October 4th, 1793. Barrère presented the case against Philippe. 3 hours of testimony. Witnesses claimed Philippe funded counter-revolutionary plots, paid Austrian spies, maintained secret correspondence with émigré nobles. Evidence was circumstantial. A servant testified that Philippe received mysterious letters. A banker claimed he transferred funds to suspicious accounts. The strongest evidence? Philippe's son fighting for France's enemies, guilt by bloodline. They came for him October 7th, 1793. Philippe was reading Rousseau's Social Contract when the guards arrived. Ironic choice, the book that justified popular sovereignty. The theory Philippe used to vote against his cousin. Now it condemned him too. No resistance, no drama, just handcuffs and a carriage ride to the Conciergerie prison, cell number 11. The same prison that held Marie Antoinette just weeks before her execution. Stone walls 18 inches thick, single window facing north, no sunlight, no warmth. Philippe's cell was 6 feet wide, 8 feet long, stone floor, straw mattress, wooden bucket in the corner. Revolutionary equality meant equal misery for all prisoners. Former dukes got the same treatment as common thieves. The Conciergerie held 268 prisoners that October. They were killing people faster than they could arrest them. Philippe had company. Madame Roland waited 3 cells down. General Custine occupied cell 15. All awaiting the same fate. The trial was theater. Fouquier-Tinville, the public prosecutor, had his script ready. Philippe Égalité faced 4 charges: conspiracy with enemies of the Republic, corrupting public morals through his gambling houses, maintaining correspondence with émigrés, supporting his son's treason. The trial opened November 3rd. Revolutionary tribunal in the Grand Chamber of the Palais de Justice. 5 judges, 12 jurors, 2 prosecutors. Philippe sat alone at the defendant's table, no supporters in the gallery. Revolutionary justice didn't encourage sympathy. Evidence? Thin as winter broth. A few intercepted letters, testimony from paid informants. The prosecutor's real evidence was Philippe's bloodline, Bourbon blood, Orleans blood, revolutionary blood that had turned suspect. Fouquier-Tinville presented his case November 4th. Philippe funded counter-revolution through his gaming houses, collected intelligence from foreign diplomats, paid bribes to corrupt Republican officials. The evidence was mostly hearsay, but one witness testimony hit hard. Jean-Baptiste Carrier testified that Philippe offered him 50,000 livres to spare certain prisoners during the September massacres. Philippe denied it. Too late. The jury heard what they expected to hear. Philippe's defense lasted 4 hours. His lawyer, Fouquier-Moreau, no relation to the prosecutor, tried the obvious strategy. Look at his revolutionary record. Look at his vote against the king. Look at how he embraced equality. Look at his financial sacrifices for the Republic. The prosecutor countered with Philippe's son's defection. Louis-Philippe joined Dumouriez's staff in February 1793, crossed enemy lines in April, now fought with Austrian forces against French soldiers. The son's treason stained the father's loyalty. If you value documented revolutionary history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from the Bibliothèque Nationale and contemporary court records. Now back to the story. The tribunal wasn't listening. They'd already decided. Revolutionary justice moved fast. Guilt was predetermined. Trials were formality. Philippe's name appeared on Robespierre's list before the charges were filed. November 5th. Verdict delivered at 4 in the afternoon. Guilty on all counts. Death within 24 hours. Philippe showed no emotion, stood quietly as they read the sentence, bowed slightly to the court, revolutionary dignity in defeat. But here's what the tribunal didn't mention. Philippe had been planning his defense for months. Secret letters to remaining allies, bribes offered to key witnesses, escape plans involving loyal servants. None of it worked. Money couldn't buy revolutionary mercy. Back in his cell, Philippe wrote 3 letters, one to his estranged wife, Marie Adélaïde, one to his surviving son, one to the people of France. All 3 letters disappeared. The guards probably burned them. Revolutionary tribunals didn't preserve the condemned's final words. November 6th. Dawn breaks gray over Paris. Philippe awakes in his cell, knowing this day will be his last. The guards bring him weak coffee and stale bread, prison rations, water mixed with chicory, bread mixed with sawdust. Revolutionary equality meant equal suffering. The conciergerie's morning routine continued around him, guards changing shifts, prisoners receiving visitors, new arrests arriving. Death was routine now. Philippe's execution was just another day's work. 9 in the morning, the prison chaplain arrives. Abbé Lothringer offers Philippe final confession. Philippe accepts, spends 30 minutes on his knees. What sins did he confess? The vote against his cousin, the gambling houses, the revolutionary speeches? We'll never know. 10 in the morning. The executioner's assistant arrives to cut his hair. Standard procedure. Long hair tangles in the guillotine mechanism. Philippe submits without complaint. The assistant notes how calm he seems. Almost relieved. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. They shaved his neck too. Clean cut for the blade. No hair to slow the steel. Philippe watches his brown locks fall to the cell floor. 46 years of noble grooming swept away in 10 minutes. 11 in the morning. Philippe's final meal: bread, cheese, small glass of wine. He eats slowly, no rush now. Tastes each bite carefully. Revolutionary prisoners got the same last meal as common criminals. Equality extended even to final appetites. The prison records show Philippe paid the guards 2 louis d'or for better wine. His last act of corruption. Even facing death, money talked. The guards brought him a bottle of Bordeaux from their personal supply. Royal taste until the end. 11:30. Time to go. Philippe stands, brushes off his coat, and walks toward the door. No trembling, no tears. The guards lead him through the conciergerie's stone corridors. Other prisoners press against their cell bars to catch a glimpse of the condemned prince. Madame Roland calls out from her cell, "Courage!" "Philippe!" He nods, but doesn't speak. Revolutionary solidarity among the doomed. She'll follow him to the scaffold in 3 days. The cart waits outside. Rough wooden planks. No cushions for former royalty. Philippe climbs up and sits on the hard bench. The executioner's assistant binds his hands behind his back. Standard knots. Standard procedure. The driver is Pierre Sanson, nephew of the chief executioner. He's driven this route 637 times this year. Knows every pothole between the conciergerie and the scaffold. Philippe is passenger number 638. The crowd has been gathering since dawn. Place de la Révolution, now Place de la Concorde, packed with thousands. They came to see a prince die, revolutionary justice in action. Philippe scans the faces as the cart rolls forward. Some jeering, some curious, some silent. The journey takes 23 minutes. Through the Ile de la Cité, across the Pont Neuf, down the Rue Saint-Honoré, past the Louvre where Philippe once attended royal ceremonies, past the Tuileries where his cousin lived and died. Revolutionary geography erasing royal history. Street vendors sell pamphlets along the route, like the last hours of Philippe Égalité. Royal traitor meets justice. The Duke, who voted death. Revolutionary capitalism feeding on revolutionary violence. Death was profitable. 12:15. The cart reaches the scaffold. Philippe sees the guillotine waiting, fresh from Marie Antoinette's execution 2 weeks earlier. The blade gleams in the weak autumn sun. The executioner, Charles-Henri Sanson, checks his mechanism one final time. Sanson is a professional, third-generation executioner. His family has been killing people for the state since 1788. He's personally executed over 500 people during the Terror. Philippe is just another neck to him. The scaffold stands 12 feet high, built from Norwegian pine, painted red to hide the bloodstains. The guillotine mechanism weighs 800 pounds. The blade alone weighs 88 pounds. Gravity provides the force. Physics provides the precision. Philippe climbs the scaffold steps, no stumbling, no hesitation. Sanson asks if he has any last words. Philippe looks out over the crowd. These people who once cheered him, who celebrated his revolutionary speeches, who applauded his vote against the king. I die without hatred for those who condemn me. 10 words. Measured. Calm. The crowd falls silent for a moment. Then someone shouts, "Death to all tyrants." The mob roars approval. Revolutionary mercy lasted exactly 10 seconds. But here's what made Philippe's execution more brutal than the rest. Not the blade, not the crowd. The timing. Marie Antoinette died October 16th. The Terror was reaching its peak. The Committee of Public Safety was killing 40 people per day. Philippe wasn't just another victim. He was the revolution devouring its own logic. Think about it. Philippe voted to kill Louis because kings were enemies of the people. Now the people's representatives voted to kill Philippe because he was cousin to a king. The same blood that made him a traitor to royalty now made him a traitor to the Republic. Revolutionary logic eating its own tail. Philippe helped create the machine that killed him, fed it with royal blood, applauded its efficiency, never imagined it would turn on its builders. Sanson guides Philippe to the bascule, the tilting board that holds the condemned. Philippe lies face down. His neck fits into the lunette, the crescent-shaped restraint. The crowd presses forward. They want to see clearly. The executioner checks the blade one final time, pulls the rope that holds it in position, looks at Philippe's neck, measures the distance, professional calculation. Clean death requires precise positioning. Sanson raises his hand, the crowd quiets. Revolutionary theater demands dramatic timing. He pauses, lets the tension build, then drops his hand. The assistant releases the blade. 88 pounds of steel drops from 14 feet. Severs Philippe's neck in less than half a second. His head falls into the waiting basket. Blood spatters the scaffold platform. The crowd erupts in cheers, but Sanson notices something strange. Philippe's face shows no fear, no pain, almost peaceful. Like he expected this ending all along. Professional executioners recognize acceptance when they see it. The executioner's assistant holds up the severed head. Behold the head of Philippe Égalité, traitor to the Republic. More cheers, more bloodlust satisfied. Revolutionary justice completing another circuit. Philippe's body convulses for 43 seconds after decapitation. Normal nervous system response. The crowd thinks he's still fighting death. Actually, he's already gone. Revolutionary science hadn't caught up with revolutionary efficiency. They dump Philippe's body in the Madeleine Cemetery. Unmarked grave. Same pit where they threw Marie Antoinette. Revolutionary equality in death. No monuments for former princes. Quicklime dissolves noble flesh, same as common flesh. The grave diggers work fast. 27 bodies that day. Philippe goes in fourth from the bottom. Gets covered by a seamstress, 2 clerks, and a baker. Revolutionary equality extended below ground. His property confiscated. The state auctioned his possessions. November 23rd. Furniture, artwork, wine collection, library. Everything sold to fund the revolution. Philippe's wealth finally served the people, just not how he planned. His title? Abolished. The National Assembly erased the Orleans name from all official records. Philippe Égalité became citizen number 4,218. Another number in revolutionary databases. His revolutionary legacy, forgotten in the terror's hunger for more heads. History remembers Philippe as the prince who voted to kill his cousin, forgets he was also the prince who opened his gardens to the people. But Philippe's real brutality wasn't physical, it was philosophical. The revolution that promised liberty, equality, fraternity had become a machine that killed its own supporters. Philippe helped build that machine, fed it with his cousin's blood, never imagined it would turn on him. The crowd disperses. The executioner cleans his blade. Another day in revolutionary Paris, another enemy of the people eliminated. Revolutionary routine grinding on. Except Philippe wasn't an enemy. He was a true believer who discovered too late that revolutions don't distinguish between supporters and threats. They only recognize power and fear it. Revolutionary paranoia consumed revolutionary loyalty. Philippe's wealth made him suspect. His bloodline made him guilty. His son's treason made him expendable. Logic didn't matter. Only fear mattered. Here's what they found in Philippe's cell after his execution. A letter he never sent, addressed to his surviving son, the future King Louis Philippe. 37 words that explain everything. The revolution has its own logic. It devours those who made it and those who opposed it equally. I chose my side. I accept the consequences. May France find peace. Peace would wait another 22 years. The terror continued until July 28th, 1794. Robespierre himself lost his head. Revolutionary justice consuming its own architects. Philippe died 9 months too early to see his executioners executed. Louis Philippe survived the revolution, lived in American exile 21 years, returned to France 1814, became king himself 1830, ruled for 18 years, never forgot his father's lesson about revolutionary logic. The scaffold where Philippe died was dismantled in 1899. They found the bloodstains had soaked through the wooden platform into the stone beneath, dark marks that wouldn't wash away. Revolutionary justice leaves permanent scars. Philippe Égalité died believing in equality. The revolution killed him for being unequal, born too high to ever crawl low enough. Revolutionary mathematics couldn't solve the problem of noble birth. But here's the final twist they discovered in 1973. Construction workers renovating the Place de la Concorde found a mass grave, 214 skeletons, all missing their heads, all dating from 1793 to 1794. One skeleton wore the remains of silk stockings, expensive fabric, noble quality. DNA testing wasn't available, but the grave's location matched exactly with historical records of where they dumped Philippe's body. The revolution promised to bury the old world. Instead, it buried itself in the same hole. The blade doesn't care about your politics, it only cares about your neck.